Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So welcome back everybody to the Gita course, where we try to become very, very dear to Krishna by reading the Bhagavad Gita in a thematic way, trying to derive spiritual solutions to the mundane problems of life, and trying to worship Krishna through our intelligence by reading the Bhagavad Gita and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you can hear me properly and if you can see me clearly, can you please raise your hands to confirm? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, we will start our session with a small kirtan. I was thinking maybe today we will do a different kind of a kirtan. Maybe we will do a short bhajan. And I'll quickly cover it. I've been singing through it throughout the day. So, this song, which I'm going to share the screen, is one of the favorite, is the favorite Vaishnav song of Srila Prabhupada. It's called as Hari Hari Bipale. Let's sing this song. First we will sing and then we'll meditate on the meaning. It's just 4 paragraphs. This is in Bengali. Hari Hari Bipale Jana Mangwaino Hari Hari Bipale Jana Mangwaino Manushya Janama Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Manushya Janama Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vish Khayu Janiya Shuniya Vish Khayu Hari Hari Bifale Jana Mangwaino Golokera Prema Dhana Hari Nama Sankirtana Golokera Prema Dhana Hari Nama Sankirtana Rati na Janilo Kenethai Rati na Janilo Kenethai Samsara Bishanale Dibanishi Ajale Samsara Bishanale Dibanishi Ajale Jurai se na koi upay Jurai se na koi upay Hari Hari Bifale Jana Mangwaino Brajendra Nandana Jai Shachi Sutta Hoilo Sei Balaram Hoilo Nitai Balaram Hoilo Nitai Dinahina Jata Chilo Hari Name Udharilo Dinahina Jata Chilo Hari Name Udharilo Tara Sakshi Jagai Madhai Tara Sakshi Jagai Madhai Ha ha Prabhu Nanda Suta Vrishabhanu Suta Juta Ha ha Prabhu Nanda Suta Vrishabhanu Suta Juta Koruna Koro Hoi Baro Koruna Koro Hoi Baro नरोत्तम दास कोई न ठेली हो रांगा पाए, नरोत्तम दास कोई न ठेली हो रांगा पाए, तुम्हा बिन के आछे आमार, तुम्हा बिन के आछे आमार। हरि हरि विफल जनम गाइनो, हरि हरि विफल जनम गाइनो। मनुष्य जन्म पाया राधा कृष्ण न भजिया, मनुष्य जन्म पाया राधा कृष्ण न भजिया, जानिया सुनिया विष खाइयो, जानिया सुनिया विष खाइयो। So this is a very contemplative bhajan. Srila Prabhupada used to like this very much and keep singing it all the time. So the Vaishnav Acharyas, when they write a bhajan or a song, it is the result of a detailed, it is a result of years of Krishna consciousness and detailed contemplative meditation on the various purports of the various scriptures. So basically, a one Vaishnav song is like the summary of the entire Vedic scriptures. So this song is basically in the mood of humility and prayerfulness, beseeching the Lord that yes, I have wasted my time. His bhajan says, "O Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Hari Hari, bifale janam going. Having obtained a human birth and having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk poison. Manushya janam paya means I got a human birth. Radha Krishna na bhaji. I did not worship Radha and Krishna even after getting a human form. This is like knowingly I ate poison. Janiya shuniya vishakhayam. Golokera prema dhana Hari nama sankirtana Rati na janmi loke neta Samsara bishanale Diba nishihiya jwale Juraite na koinu pai. The treasure of the love in Golok Vrindavan, Golokera Prema Dhana, Hari Nama Sankirtana, has descended as the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. So if there, in the Golok Vrindavan, in the spiritual abode, if there are many treasure boxes or treasure houses, then the treasure from the innermost chambers of Golok Vrindavan, that is the most important treasure, Golokera Prema Dhan, the love of God, divine love in Golok Vrindavan. That's a treasure. This Golokera Prema Dhan, or the divine love of God, available in Golok Vrindavan, is not even available in the Vaikuntha regions. People of Vaikuntha cannot even imagine of this love of Godhead which is available in the Goloka planet, the topmost realm in the spiritual world, where Krishna resides as a cowherd boy and not as a 400 Vishnu. That love of God has descended as the congregational chanting of the Lord's holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Rati na janmilo kene tai. Why did my attraction for chanting never come about? Day and night, my heart burns from the fire of poison of worldliness. And the worst part is that I have not taken any means to relieve it also. Samsare bishanale diva nishi hiya jole. Day and night, my heart is burning from the forest fire of material existence. And to mend it, I did nothing else. I felt, yeah, it's okay. to be a materialist. I have not taken any means to relieve it. Brajendra Nandana Jai Shachi Suta Hoilo Sei Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Dina Hina Jata Chilo Hari Name Udharilo Tara Sakshi Jagai Madhai. Lord Krishna, who is the son of King of Braja, became the son of Shachi, Lord Chaitanya, and Balram became Nityananda or Nitai. The holy name delivered all those souls who were lowly and wretched. Dina Hina Jata Chilo Hari Nama Udharilo. What is the evidence of this? Even the greatest sinners, Jagai and Madhai, have been delivered. Just see my fallen condition state that I am not delivered till now. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying. Who is the author of this? I think Bhaktivinoda Narottam Das Thakur, sorry. So Narottam Das Thakur is praying, O Lord Krishna, son of Nanda, accompanied by the daughter of Rishabhanu, that is Srimati Radharani, please be merciful to me now. Narottam Das says, O Lord, please do not push me away from your reddish lotus feet. For who is my beloved except for you? Toma bine amar. Who is my beloved except you? Narottama dasa koi na theli ho ranga pai. Lotus feet of Krishna is very attractive. So Narottam Das Thakur is seeking eternal shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, which is reddish, because he is feeling and understanding that except for Krishna, nobody is my beloved. Nobody belongs to you or me or anybody except Lord Krishna. Toma bina ke ache amar. Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gohi. So the advanced devotees, they always think like this, yeah, I have wasted my life. I have not even attained love of God. I have not even attained sincerity to chant the holy names. The sinful propensities are still there. The lust, greed, anger, illusion, enviousness, and attachments are still there. I don't have a trace for love for Krishna, but I have love for everything which is there in this world around me. I love this body and the expansions of this body in the name of family and children, but I don't love Krishna. So in this way, Narottam Das Thakur is praying that I may be very disqualified, but you please help me. So there is a very thin line of difference between humility and depression. Humility means I'm good for nothing. I could not do anything in my life till now. I'm feeling very sad that I don't have the love of God. But you can certainly help me, Krishna. Depression means I'm feeling very bad. I have not achieved anything in my life till now. I have not attained the love of God. And my condition is so bad that nobody can help me, not even you, Krishna. That is called depression. So humility means I'm useless. But my dear Krishna, you are all powerful and I have full faith in you. I have hope against hope that you will help me. That is called humility. And depression means my problems are so great that even Krishna cannot solve. Just because I cannot solve my problem, so there's no question of praying to Krishna. Let's go into depression and commit suicide. That is depression. So this is a prayer of humility. Those who know about Narottam Das Thakur, they will know that he is personal associate of Lord Chaitanya. He's not an ordinary personality. He has all the love of God personally bestowed upon him by Lord Chaitanya. A short story from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself who descended in the mood of a devotee. When Krishna desires to chant his own names and feel the ecstasy which his devotees feel, then he descends in a hidden incarnation, Channa avatar, in the form of his own devotee, especially in this Kali Yuga, he has descended as the son of Mother Shachi, and Lord Balram became Nityananda. Vrajendra Nandana Jai Shachi Sutta Hoilo Sai Balaram Hoilo Nitai. Lord Chaitanya, time had come for him to wind up his pastimes and return to his eternal abode. But he was feeling that the Sankirtan is his life and soul. And he wanted someone to continue that Sankirtan. So he empowered Narottam Das Thakur with the same spirit of Sankirtan which he had. So Narottam Das Thakur is not an ordinary personality. It's a very big pastime. Narottam Das Thakur is actually a prince who sacrificed his princelyhood just to get the association of God, that is Lord Chaitanya. And it's a very, very nice pastime. There is a book called as Escape of Narottam Das Thakur, how he escaped the material entanglements and took the shelter of Lord Chaitanya. A very heart-touching pastime. He was the one, Narottam Das Thakur was the personality who celebrated for the first time the Gaur Purnima, or the appearance day of Lord Chaitanya. And since then, Gaur Purnima is being celebrated all over the planet every year. It is said that in that Sankirtan, this was years after Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu and all the others had passed, wrapped up their pastimes and went back to the spiritual world. 30, 40 years later, when the first Gaur Purnima celebration was happening, Narottam Das Thakur started doing Kirtan. It is said that when he would do Kirtan, even Brahma and Shiva would come and hear his Kirtan. That was the devotional ecstasies of his Kirtan. And in this Kirtan, which was happening in Gaur Purnima, he did such a nice Kirtan that the Panch Tattva, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, Adi, Gaura Bhaktarinda, all these five great personalities, along with the others like Haridas Thakur and others, although they had wrapped up their pastimes, wrapped up their Leela and have gone back to the spiritual world, they again descended after 30 years. And everybody could see them. The wife of Lord Nityananda, Mother Padma, what was her name? Janva, not Padma. Janva Devi could see Lord Nityananda. And Lord Chaitanya was there, Advaita Acharya was there. Everybody was out of this world kind of happiness they were experiencing. Such was the power of Narottam Das Thakur. When he would do Sankirtan, people could actually see God in front of them. So that personality, who is certainly love of God personified, he is speaking like this, that Hari Hari Bipale Janam Govainu. Manushya Janam Paya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janilo Sunilo Vishwakhainu. So this means that it is out of utter humility. It is not that Narottam Das Thakur had some serious problem. I'm not able to do any devotional service. No, he was the perfection of devotional service. But that's how a devotee feels. Wherever there is love of God, a devotee always feels that I have no love of God. And wherever there is only lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, attachments, and false ego, that person always thinks I'm a very, very advanced devotee. That is how it is. So therefore, a devotee should never be proud that I have made so much advancement in Krishna consciousness. Oh, I am such an advanced soul. Whenever I open my mouth, so much truth comes out of it. And I'm doing nice preaching, and I'm doing nice kirtan, and I'm doing nice book distribution. No. One should always be hankering. The Six Gosvamis of Vrindavan, the direct students of Lord Chaitanya, they were also in this mood. I'll show you that reference also. Krishnot Kirtana. I'm just trying to pull out that song, Six Gosvamis of Vrindavan. You see, I'll take you to the last shloka of the Six Gosvamis of Vrindavan. So I'll sing the first and the last, and we'll just see the meaning of the first and the last. The Six Gosvamis of Vrindavan, they were the direct students of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself, did the task of excavating all the pastime places of Krishna in the land of Vrindavan. And he established the path of Bhakti Yoga by writing various bona fide scriptures through these six Goswamis. Krishno Kirtan Gana Nartana Paro Premamritam Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Shri Chaitanya Kripa Bharo Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako He Radhe Vraj Devi ke chalalite He Nanda Suno Kutaha Shri Govardhan Pad Kalpa Pad Patale Kalindivane Kutaha Bhoshantaviti Sarvato Vrajapure Hider Mahavihvalo Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatanam Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. We are discussing the devotional sentiments or the devotional ecstasies of the pure devotees of the Lord. So these are the six Goswamis who are the direct students of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna. Vrajendra Nandana Jai, Shachi Sutta Hoilo Sai, Balaram Hoilo Nitai. So the son of Rajendra Nandan, that is son of Nand Bahava, Nand Maharaj, he became the son of Mother Shachi, that is Lord Chaitanya. So, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jeev Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who are always engaged in chanting the holy names of Krishna and dancing. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro. Premamritambho Nidhi. They are just like an ocean of love of God. And listen to this. They are popular with both the gentle and with the ruffians because they are not envious of anyone. Because these six Goswamis, it's very rare to find someone whom both the civilized section of the society as well as the criminal section of the society likes. It's very difficult to find such a person. But the six Goswamis were like that. Because they were non-envious, so both the gentle and the thugs or the ruffians, thieves and dacoits and the most exalted people, all of them used to come and surrender to these six Goswamis. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone. And they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they are engaged in the missionary activities meant to deliver all conditioned souls in this material universe. They are not just delivering Hindus or something like that. No, they are meant for delivering everybody. There is a lot of glorification of the six Goswamis. As I was saying, that they are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing the eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanapano Sadharma Samsthapako. But anyways, what I'm wanting to say here is the last paragraph. A place or a heart where there is an ocean of love of God always feels that there is no love. That's the nature. So you see here, I offer my respectful obeisances to the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jeev Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatt Goswami, who are chanting very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan, shouting, Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani, O Lalita, O son of Nand Maharaj, where are all of you now? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan? Or are you under the trees on the bank of the Yamuna? Where are you? These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. So an advanced devotee will never see, oh, I just met Krishna and came. Actually, it is a fact that the six Goswamis of Vrindavan were constantly in association of Krishna. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro. But pure devotees always feel that they don't say that I have seen Krishna in some bush in some Vrindavan, or I have seen Krishna. Krishna is daily doing pastimes with me. I am some gopi of Krishna. Like that, they don't say. These are neophytes, or what can I say, vultures in the garb of devotees. They speak like this. That, oh, I'm an eternal associate of Krishna. They themselves will say, I'm a peacock in the spiritual world. I'm this, I'm that, and daily Krishna does pastimes with me. No. The six Goswamis, they are actually eternal associates of Krishna, established in the various Vedic literatures. And they always felt that they have never seen Krishna, although they are actually serving Krishna day and night. They are serving the instructions of Lord Chaitanya. They are serving the holy dham. They are engaged in writing scriptures on the order of Lord Chaitanya. They are engaged in excavating the lost pastime places of Lord Krishna. Today, Vrindavan, whatever you see, it is the result of the meditation and the hard work of the six Goswamis. Vrindavan was lost and forgotten at one point of time. So they excavated the pastime places of Lord Krishna, starting from the tree from where Krishna jumped into the Yamuna to kill the Kaliya serpent to all the other pastime places. Everything was excavated by the six Goswamis. And they had, various instances are there where it has been documented that they had the divine vision to actually see those pastimes and excavate them. But what they felt? They felt, Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani, O Lalita, O son of Maharaj Nanda, O Krishna, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Are you on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the trees on the banks of Yamuna? Where are you? They always felt that I have not seen Krishna. So similarly, coming back to the bhajan, Hari Hari Bipale, this is the nature of love. Premera swabhav ei premera sambandha. Jahan hoite Krishna prem, nahi prema gandha. So wherever there is love, the devotee feels that there is no love. The devotee feels that I have no love of God. But one who has no love of God, they will artificially feel that I am very advanced and I am seeing Krishna and things like that. So be aware of such vultures in the garb of devotees. And this bhajan Hari Hari Bipale, one should meditate on it. That yes, how I have wasted my life in so many false things which are not actually the purpose of human life. If I have got a human form of life and if I have not engaged in the worship of Radha and Krishna, then it is like knowingly eating poison. It's such a serious affair. So on this note, without further delaying the discussion, we would now proceed to the discussion of the Gita course. I'm going to share my screen again and do the Mangala Charan. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सह गण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। हरिः ओम तत्सत्। Hare Krishna. So I'll just quickly browse through the slides so that we can remember what we have covered in the previous sessions. So we were discussing the mind control and regulated lifestyle. We saw how the mind is the most powerful element. And then we understood that mind, although it's the most powerful, but ultimately it's the material element. And then we saw how if the mind is controlled, it's the best friend. If not controlled, it's the worst enemy. And we are struggling because we are struggling with the six senses, including the mind. We understood how the mind becomes conditioned. We saw that there are some societies where certain norms are made. Like we saw there are some societies where if you don't drink, nobody socializes with you. There are some societies where if you do not behave or do not eat in a certain way, they feel bad and things like that. So mind is conditioned and it's struggling with the six senses. We also understood the difference between the mind and the intelligence. We saw how the mind is programmed and conditioned to struggle in this material world. The operation, the mall example, the material world is like a mall, and how people are, the whole GDP is based on dissatisfaction, whereas this is 180-degree opposite to the Vedic culture, where everything was based on simple living and high thinking. And the nature of the mind is that it is very restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. And it is easier, Arjuna thought that it is easier to control the wind than to control the mind. The mind wants happiness, but it doesn't know where to look for it. The mind's idea of happiness is exploitation, accumulation, supplying the needs of the senses, and association with the opposite gender. And because we have all, some part of our life, we set up wrongly goals. Wrongly, we have set up our goals. Therefore, we are all struggling. We saw someone smiling on Facebook or Instagram, and they looked rich. So we thought that if I also become rich, I'll also be happy. So we all agreed in an opinion poll also that if we would have heard from the right source, life wouldn't have been so miserable. And then we understood how it's not wise to solve every problem. Rather, we understood that how a person does not hanker behind the sensory pleasures. A wise man is one who does not run behind sensory pleasures. However, he understands that He is eternal and he should look for a pleasure which is eternal. Mind has become the master. We saw this chariot example where the senses are the horses, the mind is the rope, the intelligence is the charioteer, and the person sitting in the chariot, the owner, is the soul. And some questions were also asked around this. I remember answering these questions. The tip of the day was hear from the right source. Therefore, if you find in our Gita course groups, WhatsApp groups, we daily, not daily, at least twice in a week, we post a short 7-minute Srila Prabhupada's lecture so that you can all hear from the right source. We just hope that devotees are making good use of that opportunity. Otherwise, if we don't hear from the right source, then obviously we have to hear from the wrong source. And we saw that the holy name chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only way for deliverance in this age of Kali Yuga. Now, we are here for today's session. Today's agenda is the rest part of the discussion. Today we'll focus more on the regulated lifestyle also. How does the mind function? Tips to control the mind. Sense control and its benefits. What if I try and if I fail? And one special announcement at the end. Just to keep people to the end, I've written that. Anyways, let's see how many will stay back. So let's see, how does the mind function? The mind functions based on likes and dislikes. As I was explaining in the previous session, intelligence functions on what is good and what is bad, but mind essentially functions on what I like and what I dislike. So mind is like a database which stores experiences from many, many lifetimes and which develops into some kind of inclinations or nature over a period of lifetimes. It has no logic. It's just based on I want it, I just need it, I like it, and I dislike it. Mind just wants what it wants. That's the nature of the mind. It works on likes and dislikes. Therefore, you see the social media where you have this like and dislike buttons, they are really catching up. In fact, they have caught up everybody. They're just glued to that social media screen. Prior to social media, people actually had a life. After social media, there is no life. Everything is just illusion. Sometimes I ask my students or my friends that if you are walking on the road and the first person whom you meet, you tell them, okay, you know what, today I had cornflakes for breakfast. And then, okay, you know, today I had rice dal, roti sabzi for my lunch. You know what, I'm wearing a green t-shirt. I'm feeling very happy. And no, it's time for me to sleep. Fourth person I meet, I say, it's time for me to sleep. I slept very late last night, so I think I'll hit the bed early today. If you're walking on the road and we start talking like this, people will say, are you crazy? Why are you telling me? Why do I need to know whether you are wearing a green shirt and feeling happy or not, or whether you had roti dal sabzi for lunch, or whether you had a sleepless night last night, or you had a sleepy night? How does it concern? It sounds absurd. Social media is that. You have a group of people around you, you don't know them, but you keep making posts, wearing a green t-shirt, feeling very happy. And 500 people will come and say, yes, that's the way to go. Go green. And you'll say, I had cornflakes for breakfast. Again, some people are amazing. You're the man. It makes no sense. So you see, social media forces us to live in an artificial world. And that artificial world is, yes, yeah. And that artificial world is so addictive that it just leaves the person, it triggers basically more sadness and less well-being. The attitude of comparison takes grip into the heart, and we become mentally unhealthy, constantly scrolling and seeing what I don't have and what others have. It leads to a vicious cycle of jealousy and enviousness. And more friends on social media doesn't really mean that you are a very friendly person. It only means that you are a lonely person. So therefore we see mind gets caught up and entangled in this net tabernacle of social media. Life was a lot simpler before this social media. So this proves that mind works on likes and dislikes, and some very, very intelligent people have put the like and dislike buttons. So the question was, how does the mind work? Mind works on likes and dislikes. Now, the next part of our discussion is why does the mind fall in trouble? What is the greatest enemy of the mind? Or in general, the soul? What is the greatest enemy? So you can see my screen. In the 3rd chapter, Krishna speaks. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairina. Does the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied, which burns like fire? That's the nature of lust. Can someone explain me why lust burns like fire and why it is never satisfied? Would someone like to give some points? And why the pure consciousness, earlier the living entity's consciousness is said to be pure, and when it becomes covered by lust, which is also called as the eternal enemy, and then it is never satisfied and it burns like fire. Why Krishna is speaking like this? Why lust is being called as the eternal enemy, and why it is never satisfied? Would someone like to speak about it? If you know, you please raise your hand. You can be unmuted, or you can also type in the chat box. Question number 1. Why is lust being called as an eternal enemy? Question number 2. Why is lust never satisfied? These 2 questions can we try to have a discussion around. Think, take 30 seconds time and come up with some answers. Please raise your hand. Let this be an interactive session, please. Please come up with some answers. Whatever you think. You need not be right or wrong. Whatever you know, you just put it across. Yes, some answers, please. Question number 1. Why is lust called as an eternal enemy? Is it really eternal? Question number 2. Why is lust never satisfied? Aarti Venkatesh. Lust destroys our intellect and thinking power. You are answering which question, Mataji? Question number 1 or question number 2? Both. Okay. One answer to both questions. Very good. And Deepmala Gulani Mataji. Satisfying lust by fulfilling lusty desires is like adding fuel in the in the same fire which is burning eternally. Okay. I think you also have tried to answer both questions. That's why lust cannot be satisfied. So I think you're trying to answer question number 2. Ganga Shakti Mataji is answering. What she's answering? Question number 1, she's answering, lust binds us even more to the material world. So it's an eternal enemy because of that. Okay. Abhishek Chaudhary, because lust never actually accomplished anything. Question number 1. So it's an eternal enemy. Kameshwari Mataji, there's no end to lust or needs. Sudhir, question number 1. Why lust is an eternal enemy? Lust blocks the development of a person as the person circles in the same thinking. What kind of development are we talking about? Preeti Agarwal, lust makes covering more strong. Okay, let's take it one by one. Good answers, good attempts. Question number 1. Why is Krishna calling lust as an eternal enemy? See, anything, the point of origin of which cannot be traced, in general usage or in general speaking, it is called eternal. In material world, everything has a point of origin. But let's say the living entity in this material world, nobody can trace out the point when it came from the spiritual world to the material world. Sometimes the living entity comes to the material world, lives for a particular life of Brahma, then Brahma dies and complete annihilation happens, and all the living entities go into the body of Karanodakshai Vishnu. And then again, when the universes are created, the living entities are impregnated into the universe by the glance of Mahavishnu. And then time is created. So you see, even before time was created, the living entities were existing in this material world. And such many cycles of annihilation and universal creations have happened since the living entities are there in the material world. So therefore, there is no specific point of time which can be traced to or traced back, saying, okay, from this kalpa or from this millennium or from this day of Brahma or from this Manvantara, this living entity is there in this material world. So therefore, what is the main reason why the living entity stays in the material world? Lust. That's all. Simply because of lusty desires, one stays in the material world. And one is staying in the material world since time immemorial because of these lusty desires. So therefore, eternally, the living entity has been staying, because the point from where he is staying cannot be traced back. So he is eternally staying. And the main reason why he is staying is lust. So therefore, the lust is the eternal enemy. Now, what is lust? The perverted reflection of the love of a living entity towards Krishna is lust. Therefore, initially, the consciousness was pure. It was a lover of Krishna. But when the same love for Krishna gets pervertedly reflected with desires for personal sense gratification, that love only becomes lust. So therefore, the consciousness earlier was very pure. And now, when it has become perverted due to enviousness and selfishness, it has become lust. And that lust has become the main reason why eternally, since time immemorial, we are there in the material world. Therefore, Krishna says lust is the eternal enemy. There is no other enemy like lust. Now, the next question number 2 was, why cannot lust be satisfied? Because that is an illusion. Deepmala Gulani Mataji was telling you, keep adding fire in the fuel. It's an illusion that the fire will subside. Point to be noted, Trying to satisfy lust is like trying to scratch an itch. The more you scratch, the more itchy it becomes, and the more bloody it becomes. Atmendriya Preeti Ichha Tare Balikam, Krishnendriya Preeti Vancha Dhare Prema Nam. The Chaitanya Charitamrita says that when I try to satisfy my sense gratificatory desires, that is called lust. But when I try to satisfy the senses of Krishna, that is called love. So, only love can make us happy. Lust cannot make us happy. Service to Krishna can make us happy. Service to myself and the expansions of myself cannot make me happy. No. There is a way to do everything. For example, there are 9 holes in the body, but there is only one hole from which you can eat food, which will nourish you. You can't say, I have 9 holes in the body, from any hole I'll just put the food. No. There is a way to eat. Similarly, the way to become happy is to become a loving servant of Krishna. That is our constitutional position. The mouth's constitutional position is to eat. Similarly, the constitutional position of the jiva is to serve Krishna, and that is the only way it can become happy. If it is artificially thinking that by not serving Krishna and by being in an unhealthy, unconstitutional position, I'll become happy by serving myself, me being a part and parcel of Krishna, not serving Krishna, but serving myself in an unhealthy, unconstitutional way, and I am becoming happy, that is called illusion. This is the precise reason why lust cannot be satisfied, because the foundation of lust only is illusion. Yan maithunadi grihamedhi sukham hituchham kandu yanena. No, this is not the verse. In one of the verses where Prahlad Maharaj is speaking in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, he says, the pleasure derived from lust is manasi jam. That means it is simply concocted at the mental platform. Actually, there is no pleasure in lust. It is just a person simply thinks that he is happy, but actually he is not happy. For example, if a beggar is standing in front of, let's say, the Taj Mahal or some great monument, and he's thinking, I am owner of this. So he feels some titillation in his mind for some time. That is lust. It is manasi jam. It is simply at the mental concoctional platform. In actuality, it has no existence. So it is illusion and delusion from the beginning till the end. And that is why, just like if there is a mirage in the desert, no matter how much you run behind the mirage, you'll never get the water. So similarly, no matter how much you try to satisfy the lust, it will only keep on increasing and increasing and end up in frustration, suicide, crimes, etc., etc. So that's why Krishna is warning. The 3 gates to hell are lust, anger, and greed, and lust being the eternal enemy. Then Krishna says, Indriyani mano buddhir asyadhisthana muchyate eter vimohayatya esha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of the lust. Through them, the lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So, if you want to fight an enemy, if you want to make a strategy to fight some enemy, the first thing which you need to do is to understand where the enemy is and where you have to attack. Krishna is very kind. He tells us that the sitting places of lust are senses, mind, and intelligence. What does this mean? That the enemy, lust, eternal enemy, lust, can infect our senses, our mind, and our intelligence. And if we want to be free of this enemy lust, then what we have to do? We have to control all these three things. That is the senses, mind, and intelligence. And how to control the senses, the mind, and the intelligence? By engaging them in Krishna's service. So a sadhaka or a devotee has to be very, very careful. His senses should not wander, mind should not be idle, and intelligence should not be wrongly engaged or inappropriately engaged. Otherwise, lust will attack either of them, and through them it will cover the real knowledge of the living entity. That is, the living entity will forget that I am a part and parcel of Krishna, and the aim of my life is not to become beautiful. Aim of my life is not to become strong. Aim of my life is not to become famous. Aim of my life is not to become rich. Aim of my life is not to become intelligent and educated or anything. Aim of my life is to serve Krishna. The living entity loses this knowledge, his knowledge gets covered, and then he becomes bewildered, and then he just wastes his time. Hari Hari, Bifale Janama Goin. So now, for some time, we understand that the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of lust. So, question is, we understood that we have to control the senses, the mind, and the intelligence to defeat the eternal enemy of lust, or to keep away the eternal enemy of lust. And then we understood that we can do that. We can basically control the senses, the mind, and intelligence by engaging the senses, the mind, and intelligence in the service of Krishna. Now, can you suggest some ways? You can take to the chat box, or you can unmute raise your hand and get yourself unmuted. Can you just tell us what are some of the ways in which we can engage our senses and mind and intelligence in the service of Krishna? The question is how to engage. List down some ways in which we can engage the senses, the mind, and the intelligence in service of Krishna. Please take some 10 to 15 seconds and think and start answering this question. How can the senses, the mind, and the intelligence be engaged in the service of Krishna so that we can keep the lust away? Yes, please. Santosh V is telling, chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, association of sadhu sangha can engage the senses, the mind, and intelligence. Can you be a little bit more specific that by doing what you are engaging what? How to engage the senses, how to engage the mind? Okay, Thik, I take your answer, no problem. It's basically one for all and all for one. Chanting and reading Bhagavad Gita, very good. Shravani Pokale. Tanvi Mehta. Chanting of the holy names of Krishna and hearing his pastimes and eating prasadam. You forgot the association of devotees. Then you would have covered all four. Abhishek Chaudhary. We have to drop our belief and start observing things as it is by gaining spiritual knowledge. Yeah. Rajshri Madhav, by doing Krishna's service. Kirtan and chanting, Suresh Gupta. Rachana Praveen, attend Sankirtan, chant Hare Krishna, do each and every daily routine. Ganga Shakti Mataji is telling, chanting, reading association. Kameshwari Mataji is telling, read his pastimes, do service, chant Hare Krishna. Yes. So these are some nice ways in which we can become free of lust. Engaging the senses in the service of Krishna is called as bhakti. That's the primary definition of bhakti. What's that verse? Sarvapadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. When I give up all material designations and understand that I am a spirit soul, and then I engage my senses. For example, if I have the sense of smell, I offer a flower to Krishna and smell it. If I have the sense of seeing, I see the deity form of Krishna and not something horrible. I have the sense of touch, so I touch the deity of Krishna. I touch the feet of the various Vaishnavas. Hearing, I engage it in hearing Krishna. So in this way, I engage all my senses in the service of Krishna. Mind, I engage my mind to think of Krishna. Remember Krishna. And in the advanced stages, you develop some spiritual emotions for Krishna also. Not in the beginning stages, but in the advanced stages. So in that way, the mind can be naturally engaged. And intelligence can be engaged in Krishna by reading the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam. Many of you have taken Bhagavatam sets. That's very, very encouraging. Thank you very much. And some of you have taken the Bhagavad Gita. So when we read that, the intelligence gets engaged in Krishna's service. Whatever happens, our mind will immediately go to the Shastra. Okay, this is what Krishna said. Okay, this is what the devotees of Krishna said. In that way, we can engage our intelligence. So senses, mind, and intelligence, when engaged in the service of Krishna, by chanting Hare Krishna and by being in the association of devotees of Krishna, then there is no place for lust. If we engage our mind, senses, and intelligence in the service of Krishna, then there is no time for lust also. And a life free of lust, I'm telling you, it's a blissful life. It's a life of uncontaminated bliss. Even before going back home, back to Godhead, you will start experiencing what the spiritual world is. If you just, even for a small degree, if you try to get rid of your lusty desires, you will feel that what an ocean of bliss is awaiting you. That's why they say that the spiritual world is a place where every word is a song and every step is a dance. We cannot even begin to describe the degree of happiness which each and everyone is experiencing there. Okay? So we have to be very, very careful. Okay, somebody told some very nice point. I forgot to see the chat box. Kameshwari Mataji is saying, worship, write and share experiences, visit his temples, take part in book distribution, yes, and prasadam distribution, yes, especially book distribution. One of the preachers was sharing in our preachers group here in the temple, preachers communication WhatsApp group. He found a letter written by Srila Prabhupada to one of his disciples in the year 1970, where Srila Prabhupada was telling that I will personally ensure that each and every book distributor goes back to God. That's very powerful and very encouraging. And anybody who engages in book distribution, Srila Prabhupada, the Acharya, is ensuring that they'll go back to God. That's very encouraging and very thrilling to hear also. So please engage in book distribution. These days we are not doing the Friday sessions because we are trying to go out to do book distribution. Many devotees are joining. We are distributing books daily in hundreds. It's a very fulfilling experience, actually. When someone comes and tells you that, yes, I have been helped so much by the book you gave. When somebody takes a book, you feel a very strange, unfelt, unexplored reciprocation from the Paramatma within your heart. Maybe directly from Krishna. In the previous times, there used to be gurukuls and people used to go and stay in the gurukul and beg and then bring whatever they had received and give it to the spiritual master. Now, these things will not work in Kali Yuga. So therefore, the modern way of begging in Kali Yuga is book distribution. You have to go and beg people, please take a book. Some will take, the fortunate ones will take, the unfortunate ones will not take. But in the process, your ego gets crushed. Your spiritual blood increases. Every no which you hear, your spiritual blood increases. Krishna sees that for my sake, he is going and begging everywhere. How much he loves me. Krishna appreciates it. This is one of the most sincere ways to show Krishna that yes, I love you. And I seriously mean it. I'm not doing just lip service, but I actually mean it. So it's a very, very purifying experience. Book distribution means high sadhana. One is progressing leaps and bounds by going out in the street. Anarthas which one is struggling with from many, many years, one can get rid of it in minutes by engaging in book distribution. So yes, one of the best ways to engage the mind, sense, and intelligence is to read the books of Srila Prabhupada and then go out and distribute it. So I encourage all of you to get in touch with us and take some books and distribute. As I said, ISKCON as a worldwide organization has taken an aim or an oath to distribute 2.2 million Bhagavad Gitas this year, especially in the Gita Jayanti month, which is going on right now. So please assist us in whatever way you can. Contact me if you have some ideas, if you have some proposals, if you want some books, if you want some assistance in distributing some books, if you want me to talk to some people whom you know, whatever. So you're welcome. And this is one of the best ways to engage the mind, senses, and intelligence. Now, moving further, mind, we were understanding how the mind works, likes and dislikes. It also works in two states, which Krishna calls as bhoga and tyag. Earlier we saw mind works on likes and dislikes, but then the mind also works on bhoga tyag principle. Now, because the intelligence is covered by the lust and mind is clueless, so therefore the living entity gets into this bhoga tyag tendency. What is this bhog tyag tendency? Let me explain. I think the picture only explains everything, but I'll also explain. It's called as the pendulum life. You do something, you get fed up of doing it, you decide I'll not do it again, and for some time you don't do it. But because you have the practice of doing what you were doing all the time, so again you go back to the same life. But again you get frustrated, and again you start thinking, I will renounce this, I'll give up this, and for 2, 3 days, 4 days, a week, you don't do it. But again, the modes of material nature catch up on you, and then you again start doing that. When you start doing something which you actually are not supposed to do, that's called as bhoga. And when you artificially or maybe temporarily or immaturely try to renounce it without proper spiritual stability, then that is called tyag. So bhog tyag, bhog tyag, bhog tyag. This is the pendulum life of most of the people. They don't know how to live a life. They're just trying to listen to the mind and engage in bhog tyag principle. Somebody gets frustrated. Srila Prabhupada gives often the example of a businessman that he works like a donkey in the weekdays and he gets completely fed up and frustrated. Then he goes for a vacation in the weekend. But then ultimately he again comes back to the same routine and then again goes for a vacation in the weekend. Bhoga tyag, bhoga tyag, bhoga tyag. Why this happens, Because the nature of the mind is to do sankalpa and vikalpa. The mind will take a sankalpa. That according to this picture, the mind will take a sankalpa that I will not eat, let's say, some sweet or some noodles. It's bad for me. This is called sankalpa. After 2 days, the mind will tell, you know what, there's not there's not much wrong in eating the noodles or the sweet. Let's eat it. After all, it is meant to be eaten. No. Let's eat. What's the problem? Similarly, sometimes devotees also take a sankalpa. I will chant these rounds every day, 16 rounds every day, with focus, attention, love, and affection. I will not look at my mobile while chanting. I will not talk to people while chanting. I will not do chit chat while chanting. I'll try to finish my rounds before taking any relaxed time or leisure time like that. They sometimes take some sankalpa. But after 2 days, the mind will convince them that, you know what, you've already become a pure devotee. Enough you have done, man. Come, let's enjoy a little bit. Today, let's not chant. In this way, the mind will convince us that, you have already done more than enough than any living entity which ever did in this universe. So therefore, you have full right to break your vow or break your sankalpa and again do some sense gratification. And then we fall for it. And then we again do tyag, bhoga, tyag, bhoga, tyag. This is the flickering. This is called as the flickering nature of the mind. And because of this, the lusty desires also increase and the mind becomes more and more unbridled, obstinate, and uncontrolled. So the question is how to control the mind. We have to be strict with the mind. That is the answer. You have to tell the mind very strongly that you are not the master here. Basically, we have to give the mind a positive engagement. Mind is like a small child. A small child is very nagging and crying, trying to get the attention of the parents all the time. But what happens if you, just keep the child in a safe place and ignore the child for some time? The child cries and cries and cries. There are two kinds of children, by the way. One child is that child when they cry, then actually tears come out. The other category of children are that when they cry, no tears will come out, only huge noise will come out. I don't know which kind of children you have. I was in the second category. I only used to make noise. So my mother understood that I'm simply doing it to seek her attention. So she started ignoring me. Then what happened to me was that I cried and cried and cried. And then I saw that nobody is giving attention to me. Then I got tired of crying. And then I stopped crying. And then I started minding my own business. So that's how the nature of the mind is. It will be nagging you, bothering you, disturbing you. But if you learn to ignore the mind, one day the mind will give up on you. And then, it will just start cooperating with you. So we have to learn to ignore the mind. Never trust the mind. Always ignore the mind. Only trust Krishna and the teachings of Krishna. That is one of the simple principles of mind control. Make the mind the servant of the intelligence. Sometimes I've seen some devotees explaining that all of us have the good dog and the bad dog within us. Which dog wins depends upon which dog you feed. So there is the mind and there is the intelligence. Mind wants what it wants. Intelligence wants or tells you what the Bhagavad Gita is telling. Two dogs are there. So which dog do you think will win? The dog whom you hear and allow to act will win. For example, here is the mind, very powerful. Already the intelligence has been overpowered. The mind is telling, do this, do this. Intelligence is telling, don't do, don't do. But we choose to hear the mind. So the mind keeps becoming more and more powerful and conquers the intelligence. However, if we don't hear the mind and if we start hearing to the intelligence, then slowly the mind feels ignored. Of course, it will retaliate, rebel, but then there are ways to tackle it by chanting Hare Krishna and proper guidance. And then slowly the intelligence becomes stronger because you're hearing the intelligence, and then the intelligence will become very strong and take over the mind. And then the mind will come in your control. So that's the process. Make the mind the servant of the intelligence. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. It is a very sad fact that even in the best of the universities, we see that there is no impetus given on the regulation of the senses. Training is being given simply how to fill the belly. Udar Bharana Vidya. If we ask anybody, what did you learn? I learned how to fill my belly very nicely by becoming a lawyer or a chartered accountant or an engineer or a doctor or a teacher or a whatever. The main aim of life is how to fill your belly. And that's what is being taught in the various universities. There is no emphasis on character development. There is no emphasis on sense control. And therefore, we see all the top-notch, so-called very highly successful people are committing suicides, alienating themselves, and living a very horrible life. In the books of the society, these people are very highly successful, almost as good as demigods, and they should be worshipped. But if you look at their personal lives and their personal characters, it's very scandalous and it's very disgusting. Why? Because the senses are not controlled and the mind is not controlled. So, we need to regulate. If somebody asks how to control the mind, yes, you have to chant Hare Krishna. But also you need to get into the habit of regulation. What things you need to cultivate and what things you need to avoid. Now we are coming to the regulated lifestyle. And Krishna is also very clear about the necessity of regulation, so much so that he speaks in the Bhagavad Gita only about this. You see, in the 6th chapter, Krishna says, Natya ashnatas tu yogosti naichaikantam ashashnatah nachati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva cha Arjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep at all. So again and again, people may ask that Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual book. It should talk about spiritual subject matter, soul, super soul, transmigration. Why is it talking about the body now? The answer is because these things, such as eating too much or eating too little, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, they affect the mind. And when the mind is affected, the consciousness gets affected and the soul gets into trouble. So therefore, Krishna has told very clearly that mind control has to be coupled with a regulated lifestyle. You can't claim that my mind is controlled by chanting Hare Krishna and now I'm above the laws of material nature and I can lead an unregulated lifestyle. That's why we have named this session as Mind Control and Regulated Lifestyle, Why? Because everything goes hand in hand. When you have a regulated lifestyle, your mind will be controlled. And when your mind is controlled, then you will be more prone to have a regulated lifestyle. So much so that even Krishna is talking about it. Okay, I just want to have some interaction. So I'll ask you, what happens if you eat too much? What happens if you eat too much? Santoshmi is telling obesity. First and primary thing, Srila Prabhupada says, if somebody overeats, then they become diabetic. Diabetes does not come because of sugar eating. Diabetes comes because of overeating. So when we eat too much, we get diabetic and sleep comes and we feel lazy. Yes. What else? Sleep, obesity, miss doing. If you eat too much at the night, then you get a lot of dreams. And when you get a lot of dreams, that means you have not had a good sleep. That means you'll sleep more. Instead of getting up on time, you'll sleep more. Or maybe you'll take some sleep in the daytime also. That's the problem with eating more. Now, my next question, what happens if you eat less? What happens if you eat less? Some people can also unmute and answer. Tiredness, yes. Tiredness. Anything else? TB, yes. Tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is one of the main things which will happen to you if you eat very less. Weakness. Mind won't work due to weakness. Acidity, weakness. Angry. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So if you eat too much, you cannot practice Krishna consciousness. If you eat too little, you'll not be able to maintain your body and soul together. Therefore, you'll not be able to act in Krishna consciousness. So one has to take the middle path. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in one of the calendar quotes, he says, we are not enjoyers, neither we are great renouncers. We are just servants of Krishna. We should not identify ourselves as great enjoyers. Neither we should identify ourselves as great vairagis and great renunciants. No, we are just servants of Krishna. So that's talking about the middle path. Similarly, one who sleeps too much, in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada says that if one is hitting the bed early, let's say at around 9 p.m. or 9:30 p.m., provided they have had their dinner at least 3 hours before this time they hit the bed, that means before the sunrise, they should have their last meal of the day. Before the sunset, they should have their meal. And after the sun sets, the digestion goes for a halt. So please don't put anything inside after that. And so in that way, when you sleep, and then if you hit the bed at 9:30, then you don't need to sleep after 3:30, because that's a very good quota of sleep. Scientific research has proven that all the sleep which you get before midnight, it gives double the rest to your body. And the sleep which you get after midnight, it gives half the rest to your body. For example, if before midnight you have slept for 1 hour, then that is equivalent to 2 hours of rest. And after midnight, if you sleep for 1 hour, that's equivalent to half an hour of rest. And after the Brahma Muhurta, that is 4:30, after 4:30, whatever you sleep, that is like no rest. You've simply wasted your time. And after sunrise, whatever you sleep, that is equal to negative rest. Your body will suffer from diseases. This is the understanding. So therefore, if we can hit the bed at 9:30 or max to max 10, get up at 3:30 or 4, you will see that you're naturally, simply by regulating your life, in regulating your sleep only, you will become much more healthier and much more You'll be able to give more time for chanting Hare Krishna in the morning Brahma Muhurta, when no guests come, no calls come. You can simply sit and finish your rounds and read the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So this is the power of habits, power of regulation, mind control and regulated lifestyle. One who's regulated in his eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all the miseries in the material world. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. That one who's regulated in his eating, sleeping, recreation and work, he can mitigate all the sufferings in this material world and can fully engage with the maximum potential in the name, in Krishna consciousness, basically. So these are some of the tips. We have to follow that. If we don't sleep on time, then we have to sleep for 8 hours, 9 hours, or maybe 10 hours. And then the doctors will say minimum 8 hours sleep needed. Actually, in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada says that anybody who sleeps for more than 6 hours is surely in ignorance, provided they sleep on time. When I was a small child, I would go to my village. And I was brought up in the city, and in my vacations, I would go to the village. And I used to have a tough time there. Because village life means very simple life. In those days, the mobile explosion had not happened in India. So people were simple. And I would see that 6:30, 7 p.m., everybody would have their dinner. And as soon as the sun sets, within 1 hour, they just finish their chores. And 7:30, 8 p.m., everybody used to be in bed. And I used to be roaming around here and there in the house, seeing whom should I talk to, where should I go and play, and what should I do, and nothing to do. So I used to go in my bed and toss around for 1 or 2 hours. And then I used to see 8 p.m. they used to hit the bed, and 2:30 a.m. they would be up in the morning. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. And they were actually practicing it. And they were so much more happier, so much more healthier, so much more focused, so much more self-controlled, so much more mind-controlled. Their happiness quotient was much. They were not chanting Hare Krishna. They were simply regulated in their lifestyle, and they were simply doing much better than ordinary people. Imagine if you lead a regulated lifestyle coupled with Krishna consciousness, there's nothing like it. So regulated lifestyle is very important for a person to become a yogi. And only a yogi can become a bhakti yogi. I repeat, regulated lifestyle is very important for becoming a yogi. And only a yogi can aspire to become a bhakti yogi. So let's not, in one of the articles I was reading, that those who are too much in depression, they tend to sleep a lot. So if somebody is really sleeping all the time, that means they are in depression. They need some help. So we have to see all these points. And therefore, there is a very good reason why Krishna speaks like this in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, next verse. Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. This is the verse which I was talking about. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So we need to have a regulated lifestyle so that we don't get into the pendulum lifestyle of bhog and tyag. I don't think this is very difficult. It is a matter of practice. And these are the practical tips for a happy life. That's why they call that the Bhagavad Gita is the manual of life. When you know how to lead a regulated lifestyle, when you know what it gives you by leading a regulated lifestyle, when you know how to control your mind, and when you know how blissful life can be when your mind is controlled, and all this knowledge coming from the Bhagavad Gita, you are actually in a very advantageous position. So Bhagavad Gita is full of practical tips for leading a divine life. Bhagavad Gita is full of practical tips for leading a divine life. And this will actually help us. There is a reason why Krishna left this Bhagavad Gita for us. Because he wanted to take advantage out of it. He wanted to take help from it. He wanted us to perfect ourselves and become ready to go back home, back to God. So that is mind control and regulated lifestyle for you. And that's not it. Krishna summarizes the entire aspect of mind control and regulated lifestyle in one verse. So there is one key verse which tells you how to become regulated and how to control your mind. Question is, are you ready to know it? If you're ready to know it, please raise your hands. Are you ready to know how to control your mind and how to regulate your life in just one shloka, which is like the master stroke of your life? If you do this, everything else is done. If all of you will raise your hands, only then I will tell you this shloka. Otherwise, you have to find this shloka on your own. See, all of you are not raising your hands. That means some of you are not interested to know this. Or maybe some of you are already knowing this. Okay, because most of you have raised your hands, we will go ahead. What is this? How did this happen? Give me a minute. My screen sharing has got a little bit disturbed. I'm just setting it right. Okay, so are you ready for it? This is the verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. This one single verse summarizes all the self-help books, all the motivational talks, and everything good which you hear is there in one single verse. Everything, all the self-help which you read here and there, everything is inspired from Bhagavad Gita. This verse is the source of everything. Asamshayam mahabaho manodur nigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. There are two aspects of this verse. In this verse, we see how perfect a teacher Krishna is. First of all, Arjuna is telling, oh, I'm not able to control my mind and so many problems are there in my life, I'm struggling. Krishna is not like, you are a useless person, man. Look at this Hanuman. He doesn't even know the spelling of anxiety and asamshayam or doubt or other things. You're talking about mind control. Look at Hanuman, he's fully mind control. You useless fellow, you get down from here. Hanuman, you come down, let's fight this battle. Krishna is not a sadistic teacher. First of all, Arjuna is telling, I'm not able to control. So Krishna is telling, yes, I know. It is undoubtedly difficult to control the mind, correct? So it gives a lot of hope to Arjuna. It's not just me who is struggling. Everybody is struggling with the aspect of mind control without any exception. That's the way one has to teach. One has to be, what's the word? Empathetic while teaching or while counseling people. I'll request all of you to lower your hands. I've got the poll. If you don't have a question, then you lower your hand. So, first of all, he pacifies Arjuna, saying that don't worry, it is really undoubtedly difficult. Arjuna is thinking, oh yeah, chalo, it's not that I'm simply struggling with nothing. There is some substance in my problem. And then what Krishna says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya. But my dear Arjuna, it is possible to control it. How? By suitable practice, Abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagena cha kriyate. So by suitable practice and by detachment. I repeat, by suitable practice and by detachment, anybody can control the mind without any. Just like everybody is struggling with the mind without any exception, similarly, by practice, suitable practice and detachment, anybody can control the mind without any exception. So what is this suitable practice? Shravanam and Kirtanam. By making a practice of engaging, just like we saw how to engage mind, intelligence, and senses in the service of Krishna. Similarly, by engaging our mind, intelligence, and senses in the service of Krishna by the process of hearing and chanting. Hearing, Shravanam, and Kirtanam. It's a very suitable practice. It is so powerful that it will purge all the misgivings which we have. And then what is the detachment? Everything which is unfavorable for me to practice Krishna consciousness, I have to give it up. Like meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, intoxication, overeating, over-endeavoring, not following the rules and regulations, or following it only for the sake of following, association of worldly-minded people, idle talk, too much greed, all these things which are destroying the devotional service, I have to give it up. But then, Prabhuji, what is the point? The point here is that I'm too addicted to all of these things. I do not have the spiritual strength to give up these things. No problem. Just focus on the positive. Let the negative be purged on its own. So what is the positive here? Abhyas. Practice. Focus on hearing and chanting. This practice in itself is so positive and so powerful that it will take care of the detachment on its own. You don't need to practice this detachment, it will automatically come. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. Anybody who becomes a devotee of Vasudeva or Krishna, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. Two things are the result of becoming a devotee of Krishna. What are these two things? Janya Tyashu. Very quickly these two things will come. It's not that one has to become a devotee of Krishna and wait for 20,000 years. No. As soon as you become a devotee of Krishna, then very quickly these two things will come. What are they? Janya Tyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahaitu. Knowledge and detachment are the byproducts of bhakti. Knowledge and detachment are the byproducts of devotional service. Knowledge and detachment are the byproducts of Shravanam and Kirtanam. So Krishna is telling, and there is a reason why Krishna tells in this verse, Abhyasena tu kaunteya. He did not say Vairagyena tu kaunteya. He said Abhyasena tu kaunteya Vairagyena cha grihit. You just do this Abhyas and do this Vairagya. But actually Prabhupada comments here in the purport that focus on the positive more. Engage in hearing and chanting and see how Vairagya automatically follows. So have the suitable practice of hearing and chanting, Shravanam and Kirtanam, and follow the regulative principles of Vairagya, such as no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and other things which are harmful for bhakti. Follow the regulative principles consciously, and then you see your mind will be controlled. Asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. So that is the secret of mind control, and that is the secret of a regulated lifestyle. Now, there is one more aspect which I want to cover today, which will help you to hanker more to control your mind and senses. What will happen if you control your mind and senses and if you lead a regulated lifestyle? The answer is something which you would really want to be. You will become very attractive. Just see what Krishna says. Yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriyaha sarva bhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. Bhagavad Gita 5.7. One who works in devotion is a pure soul, and one who controls his minds and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. It's not just a coincidence that today I sung the glorification of the Six Gosvamis. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Parau Premamritam Bho Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karau Nirmat Sarau Pujitau. I mentioned that the Six Goswamis are loved by both the gentle and the ruffians. Why? Because their senses were controlled, their mind was controlled, and they were not envious of anybody. And they were working in devotion. So the same thing comes in the Bhagavad Gita also. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone. Everyone likes that person, and everyone is dear to him, and he also likes everybody. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So therefore, the effect or the result of mind control and regulated lifestyle is you will become very attractive. Everybody will want to stay with you, learn from you, take your association, and you will also be very, very affectionate towards everybody and offering everybody whatever assistance you can to make their lives more Krishna conscious. With this, I come to the practical tip of the day. This is something out of experience, out of experience of handling many cases of mind control. I call it, in my own words, as heating the frog. I'm not recommending that anybody should take a pan with water and heat a frog in it. But mind control is like heating the frog. I'll take it step by step. First, I'll explain the scenario. You take a frog in a pan of water with room temperature. Then you take the pan and you put it on a gas stove or on a fire. And you raise the fire knob very slowly so that very slight flame is there. So the water will get heated slowly, slowly, slowly. So the frog will be able to acclimatize and adjust with the changes in the temperature of the water. And therefore, it will remain sitting in the pan. You increase the flame a little bit more, the frog will adjust. You increase the flame a little bit more, the frog will adjust. You increase the flame a little bit more, the frog will adjust. And in this way, the frog will manage to stay in the pan all throughout. However, if you all of a sudden, if you increase the flame, the frog will simply jump out. This is actually a valid experiment. So, mind control is something like that. The first step to do mind control is that, number one, don't do any drastic changes. If you are waking up at 7:30 a.m. today, and you cannot say, Prabhuji told in the class that we have to wake up at 3:30. So from today, you sleep every day at 12:30, but from today, you hit the bed at 9:30. It's not going to happen, sir. Sorry. You'll be in the Bhog Tyag principle, pendulum. 2 days you'll sleep at 9:30, after that 1:30. The point which I'm trying to say is that take baby steps. Don't make drastic changes. If you're waking up at 7:30, from tomorrow you try for 7 or 7:15. And then next week you try 7. And then slowly you go to 6:30. And then slowly you go to 6. And then slowly you go to 5:30. And then slowly you go to 5. In this way, don't make any drastic changes. When we do not make drastic changes, most of the times a person is successful. Most of the times. Of course, there are always exceptions. Those who are blessed by Krishna with spiritual potency, they can just flip the switch and then they can just become spiritually enlightened in no time. But I'm talking about the general case. Generally, I advise my students that if at all, whatever you want to do, if you want to increase your rounds, or if you want to read more, or if you want to change your lifestyle, don't make drastic changes. Do it step by step, because the mind being conditioned is going to rebel at you, shout at you, and going to pull you down to the pendulum of bhog and tyag. Generally, we assume that nobody has that much spiritual stability and spiritual potency. Of course, if you have that spiritual potency and stability, and you have that level of surrender to Krishna, then go ahead. Become like Dhruv Maharaj. But if you don't, if you are an ordinary person, which most of us are, then we should not try to make any drastic changes. Drastic changes means mode of passion. Non-drastic changes means mode of goodness. Let me put it like this. Drastic changes means mode of passion. Non-drastic changes or small changes progressively moving towards the target is mode of goodness. Incremental changes is good. Sprinting changes is bad. Now, the next step for mind control, I hope people are writing all these points. These are the practical tip of the day. Have a constant practice. Constant practice means doing the same thing at the same time every day, again and again in the same quantity. That's what I'm talking about chanting. Don't change the time of your chanting every day. Don't change the number of your rounds also every day. Get up at a particular time and just chant. The mind will give you 1,000 reasons not to do it, but there is only one reason to do it, because you have to do it. So that's called as constant practice. Doing the same thing at the same time, in the same quantity, day after day, again and again. That is called mind control. Especially chanting. Chant. Just go on chanting. Have faith. Have faith in the holy name of the Lord. Time coupled with the holy name will do miracles in your life. Just be patient and go on chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Just be eager to receive the mercy of the Lord. Keep serving the Vaishnavas. Keep hearing the Hari Katha and the Hari Kirtan. Go on chanting. Krishna will take care. Okay. Next point is to have a schedule. The schedule means you should have a daily routine. Every time of the day, you should know what you're supposed to do at this point of time. And you should be asking yourself, okay, it is 8:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. At this point of time, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to have ended the class, but I'm not ending the class. Oh, what am I doing? I should quickly end the class. That's called mind control. 9:30 p.m. I should be going for a walk, or 5:30 a.m. I should be doing this. So one should be constantly checking, okay, this is my daily routine. According to it, I'm supposed to be doing this now, but actually what am I doing? How much time I'm wasting? That's one of the critical things in mind control. Srila Prabhupada was absolutely to the clock. He never wrote a timetable anywhere, But his disciples understood. 8:30 p.m. means this will happen. 10:30 p.m. means this will happen. 11:30 p.m. means this will happen. Morning 1 a.m. means this will happen. Everything. And day after day, again and again, he was doing it. For years together, he did it. It was sure that if this is the time, then this is the time for dinner. It was sure that this is the time. That means this is the time for Prabhupada to wake up. And he was just to the clock. These are the symptoms of mind control. So having a daily schedule helps actually. It helps you to get rid of the various options which the mind is given. Fourth point is to track your progress. If it can be measured, it can be done. If it cannot be measured, it cannot be done. So you have to have some targets for yourself. And in the next 4 months or in the next 1 month, I will read this book or these many pages of this book. I will hear these many lectures of Srila Prabhupada. I will chant these many rounds. I will distribute these many Bhagavad Gitas and Krishna books. Like that, you should have some targets for yourself. And every Ekadashi or every month or whenever the time frame is there, you should judge that how much I have actually progressed. Last year, when somebody used to insult me, I was not able to handle and I would get provoked. This year, last Janmashtami, I fought with this person. This Janmashtami, the same occasion came. Did I get provoked? Did I react in the same way? Or did I show more tolerance? So in this way, one has to judge their progress in Krishna consciousness. It is very necessary to measure it and keep checking it, so that we don't fall in a fool's paradise. The fifth point, which is one of the very important points of mind control and regulated lifestyle, is to have a guide. As I said, never trust your mind. Ignore your material mind. This means listen to your guide. Listen to your spiritual master. It is not easy to ignore the mind, sir. We have been play dolls in the hand of our material desires and the material mind since time immemorial. Until unless we surrender to a spiritual master or a guide or a mentor, just like Arjuna did, it is not possible to come out of the modes of material nature. And what to speak of the mind, even the intelligence gets corrupted. Arjuna's intelligence also got corrupted. So mind, intelligence, and senses all can become lusty. So we need to have a guide, a third party, a concerned third party who is spiritually elevated, a devotee of Krishna who can guide us in our life and tell us what is best for us in a very concerned third party objective. They don't have to gain anything from our situation. They are just there to guide us, and we have to allow them to guide us. So one of the most important aspects in mind control and regulated lifestyle is to have a guide. We had a session, do I need a guide? The answer was yes. One of the main reasons to have a guide is, to put the guide in charge of our mind, material mind, and unregulated life. We surrender to that person, take instructions from that person, and try to follow it, and then we progress. And lastly, read the scriptures. When you read the scriptures, your intelligence becomes strong. It does not fall prey to lust. And then that intelligence takes charge of the mind, and the mind takes charge of the senses. And in that way, the lifestyle becomes controlled and regulated. So that's the analogy of heating the frog. Number one, don't do drastic changes. Number two, have a constant practice of chanting. Don't feel morose. Don't give up. Just go on chanting. Have a schedule. Measure your progress. Have a guide and read the scriptures such as Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And then distribute this. Maybe I'll add one point here in the next slide or in the next session of Gita course. Distribute the books also. Distributing the books is one of the best ways to control the mind, I feel. Speaking from practical experiences. I would conclude today's session by repeating that whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Lord Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. These 16 names composed of the 32 syllables are the only means to counteract the evil effects of Kali Yuga. In all the Vedas, it is seen that to cross the ocean of nescience, there is no alternative to chanting of the holy name. So with that, I would like to conclude today's session. Are there any questions, comments, reflections, agreements, disagreements, apprehensions, whatever? I'm very, very grateful to those students who have assisted in book distribution. I just wrote down their names in one place. I'll quickly pull it out. Yes. Sumati Sridharan from the Gita course. And I may have missed few names because not all intimations came to me. Usha Venkatesh, Sumati Sridharan, and Indrajit De, Shravani Mataji. So all of you have shown a lot of magnanimity in taking some books from us and trying to distribute it all around in your circles. So I'm very, very grateful to these devotees whose names I just called. Some of you have taken books such as the Bhagavad Gita. Some of you have taken the Bhagavatam sets. Some of you have taken some other books here and there. So I'm very, very grateful to you, deeply indebted to all of you that you have assisted me in the vrata of distributing so many books. My vrata is to distribute 2,500 books, by the way. Me and my students, we have taken this vrata. Now all of you are also students, so you are helping. Very, very thankful to you. I can only request and pray to Krishna that he may give his special mercy to all of these souls who have assisted me in book distribution, assisted me in serving Srila Prabhupada. I will encourage more and more devotees to take more and more books for themselves, for their loved ones, for gifting on the occasion of Christmas or on the occasion of New Year to others. It is one of the best ways to safeguard these scriptures also. And it's very auspicious to have them at your homes also. So thank you to all these devotees who have assisted, helped in all possible ways and means in the sacred activity of distributing books, which pleases Srila Prabhupada so much. Now, if there are any questions or comments, they are welcome. Asking questions is a sign of intelligence. So please ask some questions so that it may become a little clear to me how much has the class understood or how much is the scope for further discussion. And I feel very obliged to see that so many of you sit and hear. It's not easy, I know, on a Sunday evening to sit like this and keep hearing the message of the Bhagavad Gita, the message of Lord Krishna and his pure devotees. But I'm feeling very obliged and thankful to all of you that you people here. These are the days of YouTube shorts. I don't know, they make 30-second videos and they get 5 million views. These are the days of such fickle-minded presentations. It's very rare. All of you are actually the sages of Kali Yuga. That's all I can say. The sages of previous yugas would sit for 1,000 years and engage in the Yuga Dharma of either meditation or worship or yajna. You are the sages of Kali Yuga. You sit for 2 hours which is a very big austerity in Kali Yuga, I believe. So I'm very, very grateful to you, and I congratulate you. And I encourage everybody in distributing the books of Srila Prabhupada. And this is the final call for any questions or comments. I see 2 questions or comments have come up. People are feeling happy on the presentation of mind control. Thank you. And yes, people are saying, can we have 1 round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting? Definitely, we will have that. But are there no questions at all? Mind control and regulated lifestyle. Before we begin our japa. Okay. Then let's go to our japa, requesting everybody to turn on their videos so that for a few time we can have audio-visual association of everybody. And this is the jap mala, where we have our japa, the bead. And when we chant Hare Krishna, we move our beads. Everything which we love has to be counted. Attention to details is very, very important. Okay, some question has come up. All of 1 second, let me see. Ganga Shakti Mataji is asking, is the process of gradually realizing that we are not the body similar to one for controlling the mind? See, spiritual life means gradual advancement. There's nothing suddenly happening in spiritual life. This is a principle which we have to understand. One needs to be patient in spiritual life for everything. If somebody is making or giving you a promise that things will happen all of a sudden overnight, certainly that person is a vulture. Certainly that person is trying to cheat you. So yes, it is a fact that you will gradually, over a period of time, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, realize that you are not the body, you are the mind, not the intelligence, you are a spirit soul. So similarly, Krishna says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya, by suitable practice and detachment. So suitable practice means what? You have to do it again and again. That's why it's called practice. So practice means it will take time. So yes, gradually, the mind will come under the control. It's not a mathematical formula which you apply today and from tomorrow, the mind will be under control. That's highly unlikely. So everything happens gradually in Krishna consciousness. But we have to be faithful and we have to be determined. Advancement of a follower depends on his attitude. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. If the attitude is very laid back and slackened, then one will take millions of lifetimes to control the mind. But if the attitude is very sincere and serious, then one can control the mind very fast. But even that fast doesn't mean momentarily. It also means that you have to do some abhyas. You have to do some practice. Generally, Srila Prabhupada says that one lifetime, assuming that your lifetime is, you have another, what can I say? Let's say 40, 45 years to live. And Prabhupada says this much time, if you are sincere and serious, is enough to control your mind and senses. So much so that you'll think of Krishna at the time of death. Now the question is, if you do not have that much time, that means you have to be more prayerful and more serious. Krishna is a wonderful personality. He can do everything in one moment also. So you pray, anything is possible. But in general, it's a gradual process. If this answers your question, Mataji, can you please give some confirmation? Okay. We'll start our japa now. We'll chant. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much for assembling week after week for this wonderful discussion on the Bhagavad Gita. We are going to start, this is the level 1 of the Gita course going on. For those who have shown a good amount of attendance, regular attendance, we are going to start something called as the level 2 of the Gita course, where we are going to go a little bit deeper in the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and the practical applications of the Bhagavad Gita. But this level 2 is opened only for those people who have good attendance. So for those who do not have good attendance, but who want to be a part of this, please take this opportunity in the next 2-3 weeks to attend the session regularly and get a good percentage of your attendance so that you may be allowed to enter the level 2 of the Gita course, which is much more, what can I say, practical, much more full of applications, more discussions, more applications, more discussions. I would not say more scholarly, because I'm not here to make anybody a scholar, but yes, more, you'll be able to retain more objectively and intuitively what you hear in level 2, because it's much more focused. Yeah. Right now we are presenting a theme and then it's mind control and regulated lifestyle, and then there are so many aspects, a wide spectrum of discussions. But at level 2, we just focus on one point in one session like that. So it's much more fulfilling, much more. After every session in level 2, you'll feel that I've achieved something today. So please make sure that you have a good attendance so that you can be allowed in level 2. I wish all of you a very, very happy Krishna conscious life, a very, very happy Krishna conscious day. Life is very short. We don't know whether we'll be able to remain alive after this week or not. So let's become very sincere and serious. Let's all chant Hare Krishna. Let's all engage our mind, senses, and intelligence in the service of Srila Prabhupada by distributing his books. And let's all do something for his pleasure. And let's chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Ganga Shakti Mataji is asking, is level 2 also going to be on the same time on Sunday? Answer is yes. Until and unless some real emergency comes, we are not going to change the time. Thank you very much. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.